Lynn's bouquet slipped from her hand and fell to the ground. White petals scattered across the stone path like broken promises. She tried to breathe, but the air was thick, heavy with disbelief. Her chest ached as if every heartbeat was cutting her from the inside. Min turned, their eyes met, and he froze like a thief caught in daylight. Vi's fingers hesitated, then tightened around his hand instead of letting go. The crowd murmured, whispers rising like waves crashing into her silence. Lynn blinked, hoping it was a mistake, a misunderstanding, a cruel joke. But the truth didn't move, didn't hide, didn't pretend to be kind. She felt her world tilt, her knees tremble, her body begging her to run. Someone called her name, but it sounded far away, almost unreal. Her mother reached out, her father looked down, avoiding her eyes. No one dared to speak the truth, so the silence spoke louder than words. Min stepped forward, his lips parting as if he wanted to explain. But Lynn raised her hand, stopping him with nothing but a stare. She didn't need his lies, dressed as apologies. She already knew the story behind their shaking hands. It wasn't the first time they had touched. It wasn't the first time she had ignored the signs. The late calls, the cold distance, the hollow laughter at dinner. She had buried her doubts beneath hope, and now they dug themselves out. Her sister's eyes met hers. Shame flickered, then vanished like smoke. There was no guilt strong enough to cover what she had done. The priest cleared his throat, unsure whether to continue or walk away. The guests shifted, uncomfortable, pretending to check their phones. Lynn took a step back, then another, her veil brushing against her arm. Every step away from them felt like stepping out of a dream. Min called out, voice cracking, saying her name as if it could undo this. She didn't turn back. She couldn't. The sound of her heels echoed down the aisle, each click a heartbeat lost. Tears blurred her vision, but she refused to let them fall. If she cried now, they would win. If she screamed, they would say she was dramatic. So she stayed quiet, dignified, broken in silence. Outside, the autumn wind wrapped around her, cool and sharp. The world kept turning, pretending not to notice her collapse. She reached the gate, lifting her dress, her fingers trembling. In the reflection of a parked car, she saw herself, beautiful and ruined. A bride without a wedding. A woman without a home. She whispered his name once, not out of love, but out of mourning. The future they built together died in that single breath. Behind her, music still played, as if mocking her pain. She wanted to scream at the sky, at fate, at herself. But all she could do was walk. Step by step, away from the laughter, away from the lies. Her heart was bleeding, but her back stayed straight. Somewhere inside that heartbreak, a new voice whispered quietly. It said, "You survived." And even in the ruins, that single truth kept her alive. The rain came hours later, soft and cold against her bare shoulders. Lynn walked without knowing where the road would end. Her dress dragged across the dirt, once white, now gray with sorrow. Each step echoed in the empty street, like a question without an answer. She tried to remember when love started to feel like debt. When every smile from Min came with the weight of silence. She thought about Vi, her sister, the one who used to braid her hair. The one who swore they would never hurt each other, no matter what. Now that promise was nothing, but dust floating in the wind. Lynn stopped at the old bridge, the place they once took engagement photos. The lights from the city shimmered on the water, mocking her reflection. She saw a ghost in the mirror of the river, pale, broken, still standing. Her fingers trembled as she removed the ring from her hand. It fell into the dark water without a sound, swallowed by the current. That was the sound of endings, silent, final, merciless. She whispered, "I hope you're happy," though she didn't mean it. No one answered. The rain kept falling, washing her mascara, her dreams, her name. She wanted to disappear, to dissolve into the night and be forgotten. But even pain refused to leave her alone. It clung to her skin, to her thoughts, to every heartbeat. She returned to her small apartment before dawn. The dress was ruined, the flowers dead, the mirror covered in fog. She sat on the floor, knees to her chest, trying to breathe. There were no tears left, only the emptiness of being betrayed twice. Family and love had both become strangers. Her phone kept vibrating, calls from guests, messages from her mother. She didn't read them. What could they possibly say that would matter now? She turned the phone off and closed her eyes. For a moment, she imagined rewinding time, changing one decision. Maybe she would have seen the truth sooner. Maybe she wouldn't have loved him so blindly. But the past didn't bargain. It only demanded pain. Days turned into nights, nights into weeks. She stopped answering the door, stopped caring about the world outside. The wedding photos stayed in a box under the bed. She couldn't throw them away, not yet. They were proof that she had once believed in something real. But even the photos began to fade, the colors dull, the smiles false. Her heart still whispered his name, sometimes in her sleep. And every morning, she woke up patting herself for it. She promised never to let anyone break her again. But promises felt fragile, like glass after the storm. She needed something stronger, something that would keep her standing. One night, as the rain fell again, she opened her laptop. Her hands shook as she searched for his company, for her sister's name. She found documents, messages, trails of deceit that ran deeper than love. It wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation, greed, control. Her pain turned to anger, her tears to resolve. For the first time since that day, Lynn whispered not his name, but hers. She said, "I'm still here." And that was enough to start again. The city moved on without her, but Lynn stayed frozen in time. Every morning she woke to silence, to the same ceiling, the same ache. But inside that quiet, something was changing. Her sadness was no longer a wound. It was turning into a weapon. She began to collect the pieces of her shattered life, one by one. Emails, receipts, messages, all the traces they thought she'd never find. Min's lies were layered like paint, covering something rotten underneath. Vi's name appeared too, hidden in contracts and secret bank transfers. Lynn read every word, until the truth became too sharp to ignore. They hadn't just betrayed her heart, they had stolen her future. The business she helped build, the savings she trusted to them, it was gone. Her pain became purpose. Her silence turned into strategy. Every night she wrote notes, built timelines, connected dots on the wall. The apartment turned into a war room lit by the cold glow of her screen. She stopped crying. She stopped waiting for apologies. She wanted justice, not closure. Her friends reached out, but she pushed them away. They told her to move on, to forgive, to start over. But Lynn wasn't ready to let go of the fire inside her. She was done being soft, done being silent. The next time she met them, she wanted them to see what they created. Weeks passed. She went back to work quietly, keeping her head low, pretending to heal. But behind her calm eyes, she was planning every move. She sent herself reminders. Don't react, prepare. Min and Vi still posted their perfect lives online. Smiles, dinners, vacations, images polished like lies. Lynn saved them all, screenshots stacked like evidence in a trial. Each picture reminded her why she couldn't stop now. The truth was her only revenge, and she would make them choke on it. She learned to fake peace, to smile when people asked how she was. They thought she had moved on. She let them believe it. In secret, she recorded conversations, traced accounts, built her case. Her sister's voice messages were the worst, sweet on the surface, poisoned underneath. Every "I miss you" carried the sound of guilt she couldn't erase. Lynn listened again and again, until her tears dried into resolve. She realized power was not about control, but about choice. And she was finally choosing herself. She started running at dawn, rebuilding her strength, body and mind. Each breath burned, but it made her feel alive again. Each mile whispered that she was no longer the woman in the white dress. She was something new, something unbreakable. One evening, she looked at the last photo from her wedding. Her reflection stared back, calm and cold. She whispered, "You will walk into their world again, but this time they will listen." She didn't know how the story would end, only that it would be hers. The waiting was over. The reckoning had begun. A year later, the invitation arrived. It was from her parents, announcing the company's anniversary gala. Linh stared at the gold-printed card for a long time before smiling. The same names were listed, Min as the guest of honor, Vi as the host. It felt like a cruel joke, but this time she wasn't the punchline. She pressed the edge of the card between her fingers until it bent. The date was set. The stage was ready. She would not run this time. She spent the following days preparing everything with surgical precision. Emails were organized, recordings edited, documents sealed in a silver folder. Her evidence wasn't just revenge. It was the truth they'd buried for years. When the night came, the city glowed like glass. Linh stood before the mirror, adjusting the black dress that fit like armor. Her reflection didn't tremble anymore. She whispered, "Tonight they hear me." The venue shimmered with light, laughter, and the smell of champagne. Every step she took into that hall drew eyes and whispers. The same faces that once pitied her now smiled with curiosity. Min turned first, his expression faltering, his confidence cracking. Vi froze beside him, hand clutching her glass too tightly. Their surprise was almost beautiful. Linh smiled, calm and unreadable. She greeted them politely, as if the past had never happened. They tried to act normal, but their voices shook with hidden fear. Her parents hugged her awkwardly, confused by her calmness. They didn't know she wasn't there for peace. The speeches began, praise and lies flowing easily through the air. Min spoke about loyalty, success, and family as if he believed his own words. Lin's fingers brushed over the small recorder hidden in her clutch. When he finished, applause erupted, hollow and loud. That was her cue. She rose, every movement deliberate, and walked toward the stage. The room fell quiet. Her heels echoed, sharp and certain. She stood at the microphone, her voice steady and low. "Before we celebrate," she said, "let's listen to something real." She pressed play. The hall filled with the sound of her sister's voice, laughing, confessing, plotting. Then Min's voice followed, cold and greedy, discussing forged contracts and stolen shares. Gasps spread through the crowd like fire. Faces turned pale. Linh watched them, not with hate but with clarity. She didn't need to shout. The truth was louder than any scream. Vi dropped her glass, the sound shattering through the silence. Min stepped forward, trying to speak, but words failed him. Linh met their eyes one last time and said, "You taught me how to lie. I just learned how to end it." No one clapped. No one dared to move. She placed the recorder on the table and turned away. As she walked out, the room stayed frozen in disbelief. Behind her, the truth kept playing. And for the first time, Linh didn't look back. The next morning, the headlines were everywhere. Family scandal exposed at company gala. CEO and partner accused of fraud and betrayal. Lin's name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew. The videos had gone viral before the night even ended. She watched the chaos unfold with quiet eyes and steady breath. Min's company shares plummeted. Investors pulled out overnight. Vi deleted her social media, her face vanishing from the internet. Their perfect image shattered like glass under a heavy stone. Calls came from journalists, lawyers, old friends pretending to care. Linh ignored them all. She didn't need their sympathy. She had already won the only battle that mattered, truth. Her parents called, voices trembling between pride and shame. They asked why she had done it, why she couldn't just forgive. She answered softly, because silence would have made me like them. For once, they had no reply. Days passed, and the dust began to settle. Min tried to reach her, sending desperate messages. He said it was all a mistake, that he still loved her. Lin read them once, then deleted everything. Love was no longer a currency she accepted. Vi sent a letter instead, written in shaking handwriting. Apologies, excuses, memories, all bleeding into one page. Lin folded it neatly and placed it in a drawer she never opened again. She wasn't angry anymore, just tired. Revenge had burned away the weakness, but it also left her empty. She walked through the city one night, the same streets she once ran down in tears. Now they felt different, lighter, quieter, almost kind. A street musician played an old love song near the bridge. Lin stopped, listening for a moment, then smiled faintly. The melody didn't hurt anymore. It was just music, nothing more. She realized that peace wasn't something others gave. It was something she chose. And she was ready to choose it. Back home, she opened her laptop and looked at her old project plans. Ideas she once abandoned because someone told her she wasn't enough. She started rewriting them, one line at a time. Each click of the keyboard felt like a heartbeat returning to life. She registered her own company a week later, small but hers alone. No lies, no shadows, no shared names. Her world was finally hers to build. The newspapers eventually moved on to new scandals. Min disappeared from the business world. Vi moved abroad, far away from the whispers. Lin stayed, quietly thriving in the city that once broke her. People still talked, but she no longer cared. Their opinions couldn't touch her anymore. She met her reflection one morning and almost didn't recognize it. Not the broken bride, not the silent victim, just a woman reborn. She whispered to herself, "You didn't destroy them, you freed yourself." And for the first time in years, she meant every word. Months turned into seasons, and Lin's life began to bloom again. The pain that once owned her had become a quiet teacher. She learned to live without apology, without waiting for permission. Her mornings were simple: coffee, sunlight, and peace she earned herself. No messages from ghosts of the past, no echoes of broken vows. She walked through the same streets that once carried her sorrow. Now each step sounded like freedom. People greeted her with respect instead of pity. Her name, once whispered in scandal, became a story of strength. She hired a small team, built her company with honesty and patience. Every deal she made carried her signature, her courage, her scars. There were nights she still woke from dreams of betrayal. But she no longer feared them. They were reminders of what she had survived. Her heart didn't seek revenge anymore. It sought purpose. She began mentoring young women, starting their own paths. She told them that pain wasn't an ending. It was the start of clarity. They listened, wide-eyed, not knowing she once stood where they stood. The girl in the white dress had become a woman unshaken by storms. One evening, she received a letter from her mother. It was short, simple, and trembling with regret. It said, "We are proud of you. We were wrong to doubt you." Lin read it twice, then placed it on her desk beside a single white rose. Forgiveness came not from them, but from herself. She no longer carried their expectations as chains around her neck. She carried her truth like armor, silent but unbreakable. At a business event, she saw Min again for the first time in 2 years. His face was older, his eyes empty, his smile forced. He approached her quietly, almost respectfully this time. He said, "You look happy." Lin nodded and replied, "I am." There was no anger, no bitterness, only distance and peace. He asked if she ever thought of what they had. She looked at him and said, "I think of what I escaped." Then she turned away, leaving him standing alone in the noise. Outside, the night air was cool, the city lights soft around her. She realized that healing wasn't loud. It was quiet, steady, invisible. It lived in small moments: the calm breath, the gentle smile, the silence. Lin walked home under the same autumn sky, where everything once ended. But this time, the air didn't hurt. It carried promise, not pain. She stopped by the bridge, watching the reflection of the city in the water. The ring she had thrown away long ago was still somewhere below. She didn't need to find it. It belonged to another life, another version of her. She whispered, "Thank you," not to them, but to herself. Because surviving had turned into living. And living had turned into freedom. The wind moved through her hair, soft and forgiving. The chapter was over, but her story had only just begun. The morning sun rose gently, painting the sky in gold and silver. Linh stood by her window, watching the city wake beneath her. The same city that once broke her now carried her dreams quietly. She breathed deeply, feeling no weight, no shadows behind her anymore. The past was no longer a wound. It was a scar that didn't hurt to touch. She smiled, soft but certain, knowing she had rewritten her own story. Her heart was calm, her soul steady, her silence powerful. She picked up her keys, ready to begin another ordinary day. But to her, it wasn't ordinary. It was freedom disguised as routine. Outside, the autumn wind returned, gentle against her skin. It no longer whispered of endings, only of beginnings. She walked down the street, each step light, each breath full. The world didn't owe her peace. She had built it with her own hands. Behind her, the past faded like dust in the sunlight. Ahead of her, the future opened wide, vast and waiting. And for the first time, Linh didn't look back. She didn't need to. Because she was finally home, inside herself.